Hey guys, and welcome to Figma for Devs. So my name's Greg Ogden. For those that don't know me, I'm a front-end developer and designer, and I'm bringing you this course. So why Figma for Devs, or what is Figma for Devs? So basically, the idea behind this course actually came from my live streams. Recently I've had quite a lot of people in the live streams asking about, what I'd be using for design and stuff like that. And I would say, if I'm using Figma, and I noticed a lot of people were expressing, the fact that they were finding it really difficult to get into Figma, for various reasons. I think quite a bit of it was people just kind of being afraid of it as a tool. And I completely understand that. Like, I had the same thing when I looked at it, even coming from like Adobe XD. It was just kind of like, there's this new thing, and there was some similarity, but there's always a bit of fear that comes when you're faced with like a new tool and you've got like a lot to learn. And I just want to kind of break things down there a bit and hopefully try and teach things in a way that make learning it a lot less scary than it seems. Also, I think another thing as well was that people just couldn't get maybe like some of the concepts into their head. But one thing I really realized that helped me to like use this tool and use tools like Adobe XD was, how similar some of these concepts map to code, especially where you have things like components, which we'll speak about later, and things like the auto layout feature in Figma as well, which is very similar to the flexbox properties in CSS. So yeah, that's kind of the main reason, is that I just want to kind of like illuminate the similarities between Figma and code. Like, there's a lot of similarities that can really help you sort of move quicker with Figma. And like, this is not like a comprehensive kind of guide on like all the nooks and crannies and stuff like that. I mean, there's probably much better courses that will go into all the specific parts of Figma, but really what it is, it's just to hopefully give like you as a developer, or if you're not a developer, just anyone that wants to like learn the tool in this way, to give you just like a insight into the tools that you would need to start creating like layouts for, I think it's mainly aimed towards things like side projects and stuff like that, because that was kind of seemed to be the issues, that people would have side projects and they'd be like, oh, I really don't like the styling though, because I can't design. And I can completely resonate with that. I was at that point a while ago. I mean, I think I'm a bit of a perfectionist, but I think at this point now I'm much happier than I was, with like the styling of my projects. And that always starts with Figma. It starts in design. So hopefully it'll just give people, the understanding and the skill set to be able to create their own designs and actually be proud of them at the end of the day. So that's why. And prerequisites, so there's not really any at all. I would say if you have some basic understanding of CSS, maybe HTML as well, mainly CSS though, because we'll be talking about a lot of kind of concepts in CSS, like the box model and flexbox and things like that. But really it's for anyone. Like, if this is your first introduction to Figma, I'm going to do the absolute best I can anyway to, make things as simple as possible to understand. I'm going to break them down as simply as I can. So hopefully, you can follow along just fine. But I would say, yeah, you don't need to kind of have any prior knowledge if you're just interested in taking this course. So I'm going to run through the course structure, and this, for the most part, will be what's going to be in the course, but there probably are going to be some things I've missed out that we will cover. So this won't be everything, but it will be most of the things. It will give you a good idea of what we'll actually be covering over the course of this next week. So, and that's another thing to note as well before I carry on, is that the way I'm doing these videos, so this is obviously the introduction kind of thing. So this first section is the introductory section. It will get you all set up and everything like that. And then tomorrow, when I release the next video, will actually be sort of starting with the basics, which I'm about to go through now, and then intermediate, and then advanced. So anyway, the basics. The first thing we'll be looking at is the UI and layout. So we'll be getting familiar with the Figma UI, just getting accustomed to our environment really, and just looking at the different things that are there. We'll go through a very brief overview of what everything is, but we won't really look any more into that. As we go through the course, the parts that I feel you'll need to know about, we'll like look at those. We'll be looking at layers as well. So those people that might have used things like Photoshop and Illustrator, you'll be familiar with these. And for those that don't, but writing code editors and things like that, then you can probably liken this to having like your files like in a file system. So your layers kind of operate in a very similar way. So they're kind of, yeah, like these layered kind of things. And grouping is very similar to that, but this is just ways that you can organize, you know, different parts of the UI, just the same way you would with code, like if you would organize your components and, you know, your styles or something like that. So we'll look at that too. And then after that, we'll jump into the intermediate section where we'll be looking at things like auto layout. So this is what I was mentioning just a little earlier on. The feature that's very similar to Flexbox in CSS. It's a very, very powerful feature, that one. So it's going to be really cool to look at that. We'll be looking at components. So those that use React or any other sort of atomic reactive frameworks, whatever you want to call it, that deal with like components and reusable bits of code. This is a very similar concept, just having like reusable bits of UI that you can sort of share between your different like other components or pages or layouts. So that's a really useful thing as well. And then we'll look at text and color styles, which similarly are just kind of reusable, I suppose, like kind of like tokens that you could just use to kind of have like a consistent UI. So we'll be looking at those three for the intermediate section, and then we'll be looking at the advanced section where we'll look over variants. So variants are very similar to components. They basically are components, but they just have a few additional like kind of properties that make them super powerful. So that will be cool to look at as well, and we can create some really cool things with that. We'll be then looking at actually like taking what we've learned, you know, prior to this point and actually building layouts of everything that we're using. So this is much more towards the end of the course. And then we'll actually look at prototyping as well. So, you know, we'll maybe create like a couple of simple but really cool interactions and things like that that can give us an idea of how things would look when we put them in code. And then lastly, we'll be just going over some extras. So the community sort of section, which includes things like libraries and plugins. And in my opinion, this is actually one of Figma's like best features, is kind of the whole community thing. It's just so cool seeing all these things that people have built that can help you and help you have a better workflow. And there's been like some that have really helped my workflow, and we'll probably have a brief look over those. If not in this course, probably at some other point in a live stream or something. I'll definitely be showing these off. We'll be looking briefly at the Figma API, and it's just to give you like an idea of some of the cool things that you could potentially build with that, like once, you know, if that's something you'd want to get into. And then the kind of design handoff process, which in this case really would just be looking at how we would actually go from Figma to code and different techniques we can use to get our CSS in sync with what's going on in the design file. So yeah, and more as well. So that's what I was talking about before. I've already missed some, so there'll definitely be more stuff. But at the end of it, so at the end of this week, I'm not really sure what day I'm going to end these on. It depends on how it goes. But at the end, and I will let you know ahead of time, we will be doing a live stream in AMA. So for the first hour, I will be actually building out what we're going to be designing, and I'll be showing you that in the next video. And then in the second hour, I'll be taking questions, basically, any questions about the course, and you know, any concerns or yeah, any questions anyone has. We'll just dedicate some time for that. So that's all, and thanks for watching in advance. I really hope you enjoyed the course, and I will catch you guys in the next one.